Imagine a world where Earth is basically on its last legs, gasping for air. So, what does humanity do? They ship off a bunch of lab grown kids on a one-way ticket to deep space to save our future. Sounds like a solid plan, right? Everything is perfectly controlled, until it isn't. Once they find out the truth, their suppressed emotions explode. Folks, this recap is a chilling reminder that the scariest thing isn't the void of space outside the ship. It's the messy, unpredictable human nature trapped right inside it. So, here's the situation. Earth is absolutely done for. Overpopulation, climate disasters, you name it, we broke it. We desperately need a plan B. Fast forward to the year 2063, and scientists finally catch a break. They spot a potential new home, a planet where blue signals life and red means oxygen. A scientist breaks it down, explaining that this rock is literally our last hope. But here's the kicker. The trip takes a staggering 86 years. That means the crew leaving today, they won't make it. It's actually their grandchildren who will step foot on the new world. And to make sure these travelers don't get homesick for a place they can never return to, the government decides to genetically engineer them from scratch. Talk about playing with fate. Right after that meeting, it is go time. The labs light up, running 24/7, as scientists get to work manufacturing the next generation. And I do mean manufacturing. They aren't leaving anything to chance here. They take samples from the smartest, healthiest people on the planet to cook up embryos with off-the-charts IQs and perfect emotional control. We're talking designer babies built for one thing: survival. They pick every single trait: discipline, resilience, pure brain power. Later, we see a guy named Richard laying out the harsh reality to his team. He explains that this isn't just science, it's psychology. They need kids who won't miss Earth because, let's be real, this is a one-way ticket. There is no U-turn in deep space. It is permanent, irreversible, and honestly, pretty terrifying. To get these kids ready for the impossible, the scientists don't just teach them, they isolate them. They lock them inside a controlled training facility that perfectly mimics the cold, sterile conditions of a spaceship. Think about that. These children grow up never breathing fresh air, never seeing a blue sky, an ocean, or a real forest. Their entire reality is fake, structured, and built for one purpose. Their classes? Pure survival, engineering, biosystems. Stuff most adults couldn't handle. But deciding when to launch them is the hard part. Even with all this intense training, Richard is stressing out. He is deeply worried that no amount of book smarts can prepare a child for the crushing loneliness of deep space. He actually asks his colleagues, is being smart enough when you're carrying the weight of humanity on your shoulders? You can see the anxiety written all over Richard's face as he heads down to containment to check on the crew. He has to go through this whole routine decontamination process just to enter their world. But the second those kids spot him, they light up. They are super excited to see him. He watches them crush their studies. Remember, these are genius level kids we're talking about. And he even jumps in to help them out. It's a genuinely sweet moment. After spending the whole day bonding with them, the vibe shifts to something more personal. He actually tucks 3 of the main kids, Christopher, Sella, and Zach, into bed, acting like the father figure they desperately need. Before he can slip away, little Zach whispers that he's scared. And honestly, who can blame him? Their future is looking pretty bleak. Richard steps up, reassuring Zach that everything is going to be okay, even though he probably has his own doubts. That moment sticks with him. The very next day, Richard is so worried about these kids that he marches up to the lead scientist and drops a bombshell. He wants to go with them. He volunteers for the voyage. But the lead scientist shuts him down immediately. She reminds him of the whole point of the mission. These kids were engineered to not care about Earth. Richard, he knows what rain feels like. He knows what he's leaving behind. He would miss home, and that is a liability they just can't afford. Richard stands his ground, insisting he has absolutely zero attachments to Earth, which honestly makes you wonder, what kind of lonely life was this guy living? He is 100% convinced he'll be fine. The lead scientist is still shaking her head, not buying it until Richard plays his ace card. He tells her, if I go, we can launch in 4 years instead of 7. Suddenly the math changed, saving 3 years of budget and time. Now she is definitely listening. Fast forward 4 years, and it looks like Richard actually won that argument. The massive mission is officially a go. The starship, named the Humanitas, is prepped for launch, and Richard is right there on board with the crew. The kids file inside, checking out their new permanent home, exploring every compartment with wide eye. But right before they leave orbit, Richard takes one final heavy look at our blue planet. Despite all that tough talk earlier, you can tell, deep down, he's going to miss home. Jump ahead another 10 years and the crew is all grown up, but their life, it is intense. They run on a super strict routine, waking up in sync, dressing in sync. It is almost robotic. Today's lesson is all about the future, specifically how they'll create the next generation in 24 years. And surprise, surprise, it's all going to be genetically engineered again. No romance, just science. They leave class moving like machine, grab their food, and then scan their retinas to unlock a special compartment. They all down this mysterious blue drink without a single complaint. You gotta ask yourself, what exactly is in that juice? While Zach and Christopher are just chilling and vibing to some music, Sela is wandering the ship, staring out at the void where Earth used to be. She heads over to Richard because she is spiraling. She feels like their lives are totally pointless, like they are just placeholders for the grandchildren who will actually get to walk on the new planet. It's a heavy thought. Trying to snap her out of it, Richard pulls out a vintage family photo. He shows her his ancestors, admitting he never met them, but he knows they mattered. Why? Because they paved the road for him to exist. He tells her, "We are the bridge to the future." It's a beautiful moment that reminds them that they aren't just cargo. They are the mission. Later that night, Christopher is wide awake. He can barely sleep, just listening to the creepy, monotonous voice of the ship's computer. The next day, he's working in the hydroponics bay with Richard, checking on the crops when he gets a red flag, high toxin levels in the water. He brings it up, but Richard is totally dismissive, just telling him, "Change the filter, kid." But Christopher isn't buying it. He does the math instantly. He realizes the toxins are coming from their own biological waste and asks, "Are we eating poison?" That right there, that is the genetically engineered genius brain waking up. He smells a rat. Richard shuts him down again and leaves the room. But Christopher, he is not letting this go. He grabs Zach and they start investigating. They scan the ingredients in their rations and find a mysterious code, T56J. But here is the kicker, when they try to look it up, the data is blocked. That information is classified. So, being the rebels they are, they sneak out in the dead of night and hack past the ship's firewalls to find the truth. And guys, it is dark. It's not a vitamin. It's a chemical hidden in that blue drink they take every morning. They thought it was for health? Wrong. It's a suppressant designed to make them dull, obedient, and kill their natural urges. The system is literally drugging them to keep them under control. The next morning, it is the moment of truth. They grab their daily dose of that blue control juice, look at each other, and dump it straight into the trash. Rebellion has officially started. Later, they huddle up with Kai and Julie to spill the tea. They tell them about the chemical, and get this, they also found a secret, unnamed room on the ship's schematics. But before they can dig deeper, Sela shows up like the fun police, scolding them for wasting electricity and breaking up the party. The next day, Christopher decides to play 4D chess. He walks into his counseling session with Richard and casually asks about that secret room. Richard? He lies through his teeth. He claims even he doesn't have access and says it's probably just storage for the future grandkid. But Richard is sweating bullets. He knows these kids are literal geniuses. They smell a lie a mile away. Panicked, he rushes to send an urgent message to Earth, begging for permission to tell the truth before he loses control of the crew. But here is the problem with space travel. That message is going to take days to get there. He is on his own. By the time breakfast rolls around the next morning, the effects of quitting the blue drink are kicking in hard. Christopher is standing in line behind Sela, and suddenly everything feels different. His heart starts racing, his senses are heightened. He is feeling raw, unfiltered human attraction for the first time in his life. The chemical numb is gone and reality is rushing back in. It's the start of a massive psychological shift. And let me tell you, this ship is about to get very complicated very fast. After chow time, Sela tries to make a quiet exit, but Zach isn't having it. He suddenly grabs her arm and starts talking crazy, telling her she's changed, that her body looks different now. It is super uncomfortable to watch because Sela is totally innocent here. She just thinks, duh, we're growing up. Of course we change. She tries to pull away, but Zach blocks her path again. Thankfully, Richard spots the drama and swoops in like a hawk. He orders Zach to back off, quoting the strict no physical contact rule. Zach lets go, but let me tell you, the vibe in that room just got incredibly heavy. They try to shake it off and head to their daily training, acting like everything is cool. Zach and Christopher pair up for combat practice, but this is not your standard sparring match. It starts friendly, but suddenly they are going at it with way too much aggression, pushing each other to the limit. It looks like someone is about to get sent to the infirmary. But then, plot twist. They both just burst into this manic, hysterical laughter. The rest of the crew is standing there looking totally bewildered like, are you guys okay? Honestly, it is one of those scenes where you just know these kids are losing their grip on reality. That night, the dynamic duo strikes again. Zach and Christopher can't sit still, so they sneak out of their bunks, creeping through the dark, silent corridors of the ship. You know what they say, curiosity might kill the cat, but these two don't care. They head for the observation room and bump into another crewmate who is obsessing over a weird rhythmic, banging sound. Richard tried to claim it was just the cooling system acting up, but this kid isn't buying. The noise is way too loud and irregular. And Zach, he absolutely loves hearing this. In his mind, Richard is already a liar, so anyone who doubts the boss is a friend of his. At the exact same time, Richard is chilling in his quarters with Sela, trying to calm her down. He brings out these preserved leaves from Earth, letting her smell them, explaining what real nature was like. It's this rare, peaceful vibe in the middle of all the chaos, but outside, it's a different story. Zach and Christopher walk by, hear voices, and decide to snoop. They peek through the door and spot Richard holding Sela's arm gently. And boom, instant jealousy. Zach steps back, totally furious. He whispers to Christopher, "This guy tells us not to touch her, and there he is, breaking his own rules." The hypocrisy is driving him absolutely crazy. The next morning, things go from bad to worse. The ship completely loses contact with Earth, and I'm willing to bet my lunch that it's because of whatever those boys were messing with in the observation room last night. But they can't just leave it broken. Richard decides they need to go outside for a repair job. He picks Zach to join him for a spacewalk to fix the damage while everyone else stays at their posts. Talk about high stakes. Fixing a satellite dish while floating in the endless void with a kid who secretly hates you. Here is where the tension snaps. Sela is prepping the oxygen suits when Zach walks in. At first, she thinks he just needs help gearing up, but his vibe is wrong. He starts getting way too close, touching her shoulder, then her face. Sela freezes, totally uncomfortable, hoping he'll back off, but he doesn't. He gets aggressive and crosses a serious line. She tries to push him away, but he's too strong. Thank goodness Richard bursts in right at that second. He rips Zach away from her, saving the day. Zach panics and bolts down the hallway. Richard chases him but loses the trail. That is when Phoebe drops the truth bomb. Zach stopped drinking the blue juice. And suddenly, Richard realizes exactly why this is happening. He tracks down Christopher and gets straight to the point. "Did you hear what Zach did?" Christopher nods, admitting that yeah, Zach was way out of line. But then Richard hits him with the million-dollar question. "Are you off the blue drink too?" Christopher doesn't even flinch. He looks him dead in the eye and says, "Yes, because I figured out it's not medicine. It's a drug. The cat is officially out of the bag, folk." Richard realizes he can't lie anymore, so he finally comes clean. He admits, "Yes, it's a suppressant. We need it to control your impulses so chaos like this doesn't happen." He gives him the whole "you need to be good kids" speech. But Christopher, he is totally over it. He snaps back, "Why should I be good? No matter what I do, I'm never seeing that new planet. I'm just a stepping stone for my grandkids." That is some heavy existential dread right there. Richard doesn't have a good answer for that, so he pivots. He asks Christopher to suit up and help him fix the ship outside, promising that once the comms are fixed, they can call Earth and air all their grievances. So they head out into the void. But while they're gone, Zach creeps back inside. The rest of the crew is glued to the monitors watching the repair when suddenly it's a horror show. A mysterious black substance latches onto Richard and drags him down into the darkness. And at that exact second, the system room inside bursts into flame. It is total chaos on every level. Christopher rushes Richard to the medbay, but it is absolute panic mode. Red warning lights are flashing, systems are failing, and despite their best efforts to resuscitate him, Richard is gone. Sela, fighting through her own shock, has to make the official call. He's dead. The crew gathers, terrified, trying to make sense of it. One guy swears he heard a noise. Not a rock hitting the ship, but something alive. An alien. Phoebe starts sobbing, and honestly, the vibe on this ship just hit rock bottom. Christopher steps up, trying to keep the team from falling apart. He reminds them, "We are totally cut off from Earth. We need to fix this." They check the data archives to see what happened, but surprise, surprise. Everything has been wiped. Now, with Richard gone, there is a power vacuum. Zach immediately nominates himself because, of course, his ego is huge. The others suggest Sela since she's the chief medical officer, but she shuts that down fast. She wants no part of the throne. So they consult the rule book, which says, "Let democracy decide." They hold a vote, and the winner is Christopher. Zach is clearly disappointed. You can see the jealousy in his eyes, but he swallows his pride and congratulates him. First order of business, fix the transmitter. They get that done, then pivot to checking the surveillance footage to solve the mystery. Meanwhile, Sela is in Richard's quarters, surrounded by his things. Christopher finds her there, totally heartbroken. She tells him she's supposed to destroy his personal files per protocol, but she just can't bring herself to erase the only father figure she ever had. The room is heavy with silence. Sela is struggling because hitting delete on Richard's archive feels like deleting their only father figure. It is heartbreaking. She starts scrolling through his old photos, pictures of parents, sisters, smiling faces. She asks Christopher, "Imagine if we had that. Real parents?" But Christopher, he is Mr. Logical. He says, nah, we're just products of our donors. Biology is biology. But then he pivots to the real issue. He finally asks about that moment, when he saw Richard touching her arm. You can hear the jealousy in his voice. Sella shuts it down immediately. She explains, he was just lonely, Christopher. He was my friend. It's a deep, quiet moment where they are staring at these photos of a happy family, trying to understand a concept they were never built to feel. It's like looking at a foreign language. Then they stumble upon Richard's video diaries. It's like a vlog from the grave. In one entry, he gets real about why he joined this one-way trip. Was it because he was a loner back on Earth? Maybe. Was it for the glory? Unlikely. He admits he might have just gotten too attached to these lab-grown kids, but then he drops a line that sends chills down your spine. He looks dead at the camera and says the main reason he came was to protect them. That one word, protect, hits Sella hard. Protect them from what? The vacuum of space? Or something inside the ship? While she spirals over that mystery, Christopher heads to the repair room and finds poor Phoebe working all by herself. Where is the rest of the crew? He hunts them down and finds them raiding the cafeteria. The place is a disaster zone. Rappers everywhere, total chaos. It's completely uncharacteristic for these disciplined soldiers. Christopher absolutely loses it. He screams, "What on earth are you doing?" And naturally, it is Zach who steps up to answer with an attitude. Zach comes up with the perfect excuse. He claims the refrigerator is totally busted, so instead of letting the rations spoil, they should have a massive feast right now. And he is smart about it. He frames it as a celebration for Christopher, the new chief. It's a total manipulation tactic. Christopher hesitates. He knows this breaks every rule in the book, but eventually he caves. He lets them have their moment, not realizing he just opened the door for total anarchy. After the feast, the crew heads to grab their daily dose of blue, but Kai blocks them. He drops the truth bomb. Zach says that stuff is just a drug to keep us on a leash, and that is all it takes. They toss the blue vials in the trash, and suddenly, the ship turns into a jungle. Without the suppressant, they start acting like wild animals. Emotions are exploding, desires are running unchecked, and the team unity? It completely crumbles. Humans will be humans, right? But in a tin can floating in space, that is a dangerous recipe. While the chaos starts outside, Sella and Christopher are in their own little world, laughing at Richard's old vlogs. You can see the look in Christopher's eyes. He is falling for her big time. But over with Zach and Julie, it's way more physical. The tension boils over. He touches her face, she leans in, and boom, they are kissing right there in the open. And here is the weird part. The other crew members don't look away. They just stand there watching, fascinated. It's like they are discovering human instincts for the first time. Zach and his posse decide to invade Richard's private quarters, treating it like their new clubhouse. They start digging through his video archives, but they aren't watching cartoons, folks. They stumble upon footage of human wars, explosions, violence, destruction. Remember, these kids have never seen conflict before, so this is literally corrupting their minds in real time. Sella bursts in and absolutely loses it. She screams at them to get out, physically dragging them toward the door. But Zach, he loves the drama. He lingers just to provoke her, dropping a chilling line. Richard isn't here to save you anymore. Sella stands her ground, firing back that she doesn't need a savior, but you can tell the dynamic has shifted dangerously. Feeling totally unsafe, Sella retreats to the medbay and arms herself with a surgical knife. She is done playing games. Meanwhile, Zach is prowling the ship, hunting for her with clearly bad intention. Christopher catches wind of this and realizes it is a race against time. He has to get to her first. He sprints to the medbay and bursts in. He grabs Sella, but she panics and tries to slash him. He has to overpower her, holding her close in a fake embrace just as Zach walks in. It's a smart play. He makes it look like they are having an intimate moment. Zach sees them busy, gets jealous, and backs off, muttering that Christopher beat him to it. But the second Zach is gone, Sella shoves Christopher away. She points the knife at him again, refusing to believe he was just trying to help. She looks him dead in the eye and accuses him of being exactly like Zach. Just another guy trying to take advantage of her. She snaps, "If you really want to protect someone, go protect the crew. You're the chief, remember." That hits hard. Christopher leaves her and tracks down Zach for a confrontation. Zach is furious, demanding to know why Christopher made a move on Sella when he knew Zach had dibs on her, which is just gross, by the way. Christopher doesn't explain the trick. He just steps up and gives him a final warning. Stay away from her. Zach absolutely loses it. He gets right in Christopher's face, basically asking, "Oh, you think just because you won a vote you own me?" He is challenging his authority big time, but Christopher stands his ground. He looks him in the eye and says, "Look, I'm not saying this as your chief. I'm saying this as your friend. Back off. It is a tense standoff. Alpha versus alpha. But right before punches can fly, a loud, ominous cracking noise echoes through the hull. Christopher breaks the stare down immediately to investigate, leaving Zach stewing in his own anger. Meanwhile, the drama is spreading like a virus. Kai walks in on Julie getting cozy with another crewmate, and the green-eyed monster takes over. He attacks the guy on sight. Later during mealtime, you'd think things would cool down. But nope, the guy comes back for revenge, armed with a heavy piece of equipment, and bashes Kai right at the dinner table. It's a full-on brawl. Christopher tries to break it up peacefully, but when that fails, he snaps. He brutally takes down the attacker himself, showing a scary, violent side of his own. Panting, he orders everyone to patch up the wounded and get to the meeting room immediately. The blood on the floor is a clear sign. Order is dead. At the meeting, Christopher lays it all out. He is shouting, "Look around. Nobody is doing their jobs. The ship is falling apart, and if we lose comms with Earth, we are dead in the water." He is desperately trying to be the voice of reason. But Zach, he just laughs it off. He counters, saying the real problem isn't the engine, it's the food supply, and claims he's the one actually saving them by hoarding resources. Then he drops the nihilistic bomb again. "Why are we working so hard for a future we will never see? We are ghosts, Christopher. Let's just enjoy the ride while it lasts." It's a dangerous philosophy that's starting to make sense to the rest of the crew. Christopher fires back, reminding everyone that they aren't working for themselves. They are working for the grandchildren who will actually live on the new planet. But the crew is terrified. One manager flat out refuses to enter the system room, convinced an alien is lurking in the shadows. Christopher tries to be the voice of reason, insisting, "There are no aliens. We just need to fix the surveillance to see what really happened to Richard." But Zach, he interrupts with a masterclass in manipulation. He shouts that the alien is real. It killed Richard, and get this, he accuses Christopher of bringing the monster on board on purpose. He claims Christopher is using the alien as a weapon against them. Talk about gaslight. Christopher tries to debunk the conspiracy theory, but fear is a powerful drug. Zach doubles down, telling the crew, "We need to eat, we need to get strong, and we need to hunt this thing down." He openly challenges Christopher, calling him a weak leader and declaring that he is done taking orders. He draws a line in the sand, "If you want to survive and kill the beast, you follow me." And just like that, the unity shatters. The crew splits right down the middle. It is officially Lord of the Flies in space, folks. The thin veneer of civilization is gone, and primal human nature is taking the wheel. The ship is now divided into two tribes. Half the crew stays loyal to Christopher, while the rebels flock to Zach. Christopher's team heads to the system room to fix the cameras, but they are shaking in their boots, terrified of this imaginary monster. Being the good guy, Christopher goes in first to clear the area. But guess who else shows up? Zach and his goon squad. Zach and Kai leave their followers at the door and stride into the room like big game hunters, weapons ready, looking for a fight. The tension in that hallway is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Suddenly, Zach and Kai come sprinting out of the room, screaming their heads off. They are terrified, yelling that there is a monster inside. It is a total Oscar-worthy performance, and it works. Everyone starts panicking immediately. They slam the door shut, lock it tight, and herd the terrified crew away like sheep, claiming the alien is trapped. But while they are spreading fear, Christopher is focused on facts. He grabs the surveillance drive, handling it like it's a newborn baby, and rushes it to Sella and Phoebe in the medbay. The drive looks completely fried, destroyed beyond repair, but Christopher isn't giving up. He studies the damage and says, "I can clean this." That is the determination we need. Two other crew members run in, breathless, repeating Zach's crazy story about the alien encounter. Christopher shakes his head, insisting, "Guys, I was literally just in there. The room was empty." But they tell him the place was trashed, with the surveillance drive smashed on the floor. This makes Sella pause. She starts doing the mental math. Is there really an invisible space monster tearing up the ship, or was this sabotage? She starts wondering if Zach and Kai wrecked the room themselves to cover their tracks. The pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together, and it is looking suspicious. The realization hits them like a truck. If Zach and Kai destroyed the room, they did it to hide the truth about Richard's death. With a new fire in his eyes, Christopher gets to work on the drive. It's a tense moment. Will it load? Yes. The video clears up, and the truth is absolutely sickening. The footage shows Zach and Kai in the system room while Richard was outside. They weren't fighting an alien, they were hacking the system. Zach admits he wanted to make Richard suffer a little, so they cranked up the voltage in his suit. But they didn't stop there. They pushed it to the max level. We watch in horror as the footage confirms it. Richard didn't die from a monster. He was electrocuted by the very very kids he tried to protect. They make a tactical decision. Keep the drive secret for now. But the weight of it is crushing Sela. She is freaking out, insisting that the crew has gone insane, that this violent behavior isn't the real them. But Christopher, he drops a dark philosophical bomb. He wonders aloud, what if this is our real self? What if the drugs were the only thing keeping us civilized? Sela refuses to accept that nightmare. She insists that she isn't a monster, and neither is he. She is convinced that if they just show the truth, the crew will wake up and turn on Zach. But Christopher, he is way more cynical. He thinks it's already too late. Christopher is spiraling into total apathy. He feels like nobody cares anymore. And honestly, he is starting not to care either. He tries to leave the room, but Sela stops him, begging him to stay. And in that moment of hopelessness, they turn to each other. They spend the night together, finding the only comfort they can in a world gone mad. But their peace is shattered the next morning by a loud knock. It's Zach. When they open the door, they are clearly disheveled and badly dressed, and Zach clocks it immediately. He knows exactly what happened, but instead of being weird about it, he plays it cool, casually inviting them to another feast like nothing is wrong. The guy is a sociopath. Reluctantly, Sela and Christopher drag themselves to the gathering, and there is Zach, standing tall, holding court like a dictator. He starts his speech, claiming he has located the alien and that they will get back to work, but only on his terms, at his pace. He officially declares himself the new chief, demanding total obedience. He is oozing confidence, holding the crowd in the palm of his hand. But just as he is about to wrap up his victory lap, Christopher decides he has heard enough. He steps forward, pulls out the surveillance drive, and holds it up for everyone to see. It is the ultimate mic drop moment. Christopher drops the bombshell. Zach is the one who murdered Richard. But instead of apologizing or showing an ounce of remorse, Zach pulls off a masterclass in manipulation. He looks the crew in the eye and says, "Yeah, I did it, but I did it to save you." He spins this insane lie that he saw the alien inside Richard, that Richard was infected. Then he turns the weapon on Christopher, accusing him of bringing that infected body back on board on purpose. And then comes the knockout punch. He claims the alien has jumped body. It is now hiding inside one of them. In seconds, he turns a murder accusation into a witch hunt. The crew completely loses it. Panic takes over. Zach starts shoving people, shouting, "Is it in you? Is it in you?" The paranoia snaps, and the mob picks a target. One innocent boy becomes the scapegoat. He runs for his life, terrified, but the pack hunts him down. They catch him in the hallway, and it is brutal. They kick him to death right there. No one steps in. It is pure savagery. When one girl looks horrified by what they just did, Kai gets right in her face and asks, "Is the alien in you?" Terrified for her life, she falls in line instantly. Zach then leads his army to the med bay, ordering them to loot everything. Scalpels, tools, anything sharp. They are arming themselves for a war against a monster that doesn't even exist. Christopher realizes they are in serious danger and drags his remaining loyalists to a hideout, but the morale is shattering. Two of his own crew members look at him and say, "We can't stay here." They figure it out perfectly. Zach doesn't care about aliens, he just wants to be king. They know that if they keep standing with Christopher, Zach is just going to point his finger at them next, call them aliens, and have the mob kill them. It's a terrifying choice. Join the tyrant or die. You can hear the desperation in their voices as they explain why they have to leave. They propose a dangerous gambit, pretend to defect to Zach's side, stroke his ego, and take him down from the inside. It's a classic Trojan horse strategy, but Christopher isn't relying on tricks. He wants cold, hard steel. Sela suddenly remembers a detail from Richard's old vlog, a hidden cache of weapons stored for emergencies. Bingo! That night, Christopher goes into stealth mode. He creeps through the silent corridors, heart pounding, heading straight for the armory. He reaches the vault, but it's locked behind a keypad. He tries to hack the code, but instead of opening, the system screams. A loud alarm blares through the ship. Christopher panics and flees to find tools to pry it open, but the noise draws Zach's squad like sharks to blood. Zach arrives, sees the door, and doesn't bother with code. He just smashes it open with brute force. Inside, crates full of high-tech guns. Kai tries to stop him, saying, "Those are for the colony," but Zach ignores him. He arms his militia to hunt their imaginary alien, and right on cue, the two defectors walk in, asking to join the army. Zach plays the Inquisitor, demanding to know if they are infected by the alien. Even though they know the alien is a total myth, they play along perfectly. They look him in the eye and lie with total confidence. "We are clean." Zach accepts them, but there is a catch. He demands the location of Christopher's hideout, and without blinking, they sell out their friend. Meanwhile, Christopher's team is watching this horror show on the surveillance feed. Phoebe points at the screen, confused, asking what those metal things are. When they realize they are guns, hands. The blood drains from their faces. This isn't a disagreement anymore. It's a war. Sela looks at the situation and panics. And honestly, can you blame her? She points out the obvious. Christopher, they have military-grade assault rifles and we have a fruit knife. We are toast. But Christopher has a plan. A crazy, desperate plan. He says, we surrender. We ask to join them. Sela thinks he is absolutely delusional. Zach is never going to buy that. But Christopher insists, I just need to get close. Give me 1 second within striking distance and I will end him. But before they can even argue about the suicide mission, they check the monitors. Zach's army is moving out. They are coming. And then, click, lights out. Someone cuts the power and the room plunges into total darkness. The CCTV screens die instantly. Their only advantage, their eyes in the sky, is gone. Now they are blind, sitting ducks in the dark. They try to hide in the corner, holding their breath, but you can't hide from a mob. Boom. The door explodes inward. Zach's team uses their firepower to breach the lock. And just like that, their safe house is compromised. The soldiers flood in, and the room that was supposed to protect them becomes a trap. It is total chaos. They grab Christopher and drag him out kicking and screaming, leaving Sela and Phoebe behind. Sela knows she has exactly one move left. She hides the knife behind her back, takes a deep breath, and decides to play the role of her life. She calls out to Zach, changing her tone completely. She says, Zach, wait, I want to join you. I want to be with you. She asks for a private moment, playing on his obsession with her. Her voice is calm, almost inviting, but behind her back, she is gripping that knife so hard her knuckles are white. It's a trap, and she is the bait. Zach decides to play with his food. He keeps asking her over and over, are you sure? Do you really want to be with me? Sela thinks he is buying the act. She inches closer, gripping that knife, waiting for the perfect split second to strike. But Zach, he just bursts out laughing. He wasn't fooled for a second. He looks her dead in the eye and brutally rejects her, saying, I don't want you, and I definitely don't need you in my crew. Then he turns to his mob with a sick grin and says, but hey, I bet one of you guys wants her, right? The whole room erupts in this gross, mocking laughter. It's humiliating. And Phoebe? She is standing there, looking totally disgusted by what they've become. Phoebe decides she has had enough. She steps right into the middle of it, begging them to listen. She screams, this isn't who we are. We need to go back to the rules. We need peace. The mob screams back, telling her to shut up, but she refuses to back down. And then tragedy strikes. Kai, trying to be the tough guy, raises his weapon and pulls the trigger. Boom! Phoebe hits the floor instantly. Gone. Just like that. You have to remember, these are lab kids. They have never seen a gun fired in real life. They didn't know it would be that loud or that final. The echo of that shot leaves everyone frozen in absolute terror. Jaws hit the floor. Sela rushes to Phoebe's body to check for a pulse. Even Zach and Christopher run over, totally stunned by the reality of death. But Zach, he recovers fast. He stands up, looks at the fear in everyone's eyes, and shouts, did you see that? That is the power I have now. Christopher realizes he is target number one. He bolts. Sela runs the other way. It is a desperate scramble. They manage to link up and dive into the kitchen, squeezing into a tight storage compartment to hide. But Zach's death squad is right on their heels. They start checking every corner. Zach spots a closed cabinet and just starts blasting. He pumps bullets through the door blindly. Miraculously, Sela and Christopher find a back vent and slip out just seconds before they get turned into Swiss cheese. They scramble into the laboratory, frantically searching for anything that can double as a weapon. Christopher grabs a heavy fire extinguisher and Sela loads up a syringe with a lethal dose. It's do or die time. Suddenly one of Zach's goons corners. Christopher plays the bait, lures him in, and bam! Smacks him with the extinguisher. Sela jumps in with the needle. Lights out for that guy. But they can't celebrate because Zach is right behind them, blasting through every door they lock like a movie villain. They finally corner themselves in an airlock. Christopher yells, put on a suit! Sela hesitates, screaming, if we go out there, we can never come back. But Christopher has a trick up his sleeve. He grabs a piece of foil to cover the door's window so Zach is flying blind. Zach, being impatient, shoots the lock and kicks the door open. But he has no idea what he just walked into. Here is the trap. Christopher had already opened the outer airlock. The second that door opens, the vacuum of space roars in. Zach gets sucked toward the void, gasping for air. In a panic, he grabs onto Sela, trying to use her as an anchor to pull himself back in. It is a desperate struggle, and in the chaos, he actually stabs her. Christopher sees red. He tackles Zach, shoving him toward the open hatch. They are brawling, right on the edge of oblivion. Zach manages to overpower, pushing Christopher out and trying to seal the door, but Sela isn't done yet. Bleeding and hurt, she summons every ounce of strength and delivers a legendary kick, sending Zach flying out into the deep dark. Without a spacesuit, Zach doesn't stand a chance. The universe claims him. Sella is clinging to the edge, heart pounding, waiting. And then she sees a hand. Christopher grabs the hull. He pulls himself back in against the force of the vacuum. Sella's relief is heartbreaking. They seal the hatch and stumble back to the main deck. The remaining crew immediately aims their weapons. Old habits die hard, but Christopher raises his hands and drops the news. Zach is dead. It's over. You can literally feel the tension leave the room. The tyrant is gone, and the nightmare is finally ending. The dust finally settles. The crew gathers for a meal, and for the first time in forever, it's actually peaceful. But Sella, she is still looking over her shoulder. She asks Christopher the million-dollar question: how do we stop this from turning into a nightmare again? To find the answer, they play one last message from Richard recorded right before they left Earth. And guys, this hits different now. He admits he knew exactly how messy and dangerous human nature could be. He knew this trip would go off the rails. But he left them with one final truth. No matter how ugly things get, humanity is worth saving. It's not just a warning, it's a legacy. So how do they rebuild society? They go back to the ballot box. The crew holds a new election, and this time, Sella takes the crown. She steps up as the new chief and lays down the law, or rather, the freedom. She declares that from this day forward, this ship is a democracy. Every single decision gets a vote. And the biggest change, the blue drink is gone for good. No more drugs, no more numbness. They are going to feel everything: the joy, the pain, and the love. It's a bold new era of free will. Fast forward a few months, and we see the ultimate sign of hope. Sella is pregnant. She gives birth to Christopher's child, the very first natural-born baby of the new generation. As the years roll by, the cold, sterile silence of the ship is replaced by the sound of kids running, playing, and laughing. 86 years after launch, the journey finally ends. The ship descends toward the alien planet, and the survivors, now old and gray, stand side by side with their grandchildren, gazing at their new home. It was a long, hard road, but looking at that horizon, you realize Richard was right. Humans were worth saving.